bonjour. It's been a while since we last met, but I'm happy we can meet again to journey through the captivating world of French literature together. Love Today is captured beautifully by Taylor Swift. But let me take you back to another world centuries ago where love was immortalized through the beautiful verses of Pierre de Ronsard. Ronsard, known as the Prince des Poètes et Poète des Princes, was a pivotal figure in the Renaissance era. Born in 1524, Ronsard was part of La Pléiade, a group of 7 poets. Ronsard is known for his long series of amorous sonnets and odes to a number of women, including Marie, Cassandre, and Hélène. Today, we're going to focus on Hélène. Let's go back to late 1500s. We're in the courts of Queen Catherine de' Medici. Her very young protégée and maid of honor, Hélène de Surgères, has lost her lover at war. And so, to lift her spirits, the queen encourages a rather middle-aged Ronsard to woo a rather young Hélène with his verses. Ronsard writes her a collection of sonnets now called Sonnets pour Hélène, where he praises her beauty and compares her with the beautiful Hélène, the heroine of the Trojan War. While there are many amazing pieces of work by Ronsard, many within Sonnets pour Hélène, the brilliance of Quand, Vous, Serez, Vieille, penned in 1578, transcends time and is a poetic masterpiece. So back to Ronsard and Hélène. Imagine the immaculately manicured lawns of the Queen's garden. Hélène is strolling down while Ronsard tries to win her heart. He is lavishing praise on her, using every weapon in his poetic arsenal. But it's not working. His words, his wit, his charm, even his poetry is simply not working on Hélène. And that's when he changes tactics. He tries a different strategy, something with a twist she wouldn't have expected. After failing at his attempts at winning her with praise, Ronsard now uses verbs rooted in the future tense, and instead of focusing on her present beauty, he paints a vivid portrait of her aging over the years. And by doing so, he taunts her to take advantage of her youth and beauty and to give in to his advances, and gives her a glimpse of her regret-filled old age if she doesn't. Let's dive into the heart of the poem written in Alexandrine verses to see how Ronsard delicately weaves words like a master craftsman in two quatrains and two tercets. Quand vous serez bien vieille, when you are very old. A powerful opening line, a harsh depiction with no concession, hoping to provoke a realization in Hélène. Au soir, à la chandelle, at evening, by the fire. Soir, evening, which is almost the end of the day, represents her life, which is depicted as also almost over. Assise auprès du feu, dévidant et filant, spinning wool by candlelight and winding it in skeins. Instead of praising young Hélène's beauty, Ronsard paints a grim picture of an old Hélène sitting by the fire, winding the wool and knitting, a sign of boredom and old age. He does not evoke the first appearance of a wrinkle, but a picture of complete old age. The room is dark except for the candlelight, and this darkness represents Hélène's proximity to the darkness of death. Dirai, chantant mes vers, en vous émerveillant. You will say in wonderment as you recite my lines. He pictures Hélène singing his verses while knitting. With love and youth having long gone, the portrait painted in the first stanza is one of calmness and quietness in old age. Moving on to the second stanza, Ronsard me célébrait du temps que j'étais belle. Ronsard admired me in days when I was fair. Hélène speaks here of her admiration for Ronsard, who immortalized her through his verse. He speaks of himself in the third person and of his immortality because of his talent, and pays homage to himself through his poem. Belle rhymes with chandelle. As the wax melts with time, so does beauty fade with time. He portrays her old age as one which is monotonous and sad, filled with nostalgia of days of her youth, of days when Hélène was once celebrated by someone like Ronsard. Lors, vous n'aurez servante oyant telle nouvelle. Then, not one of your servants dozing gently there. So next, Ronsard pictures a servant falling asleep in the same room where Hélène is knitting. Déjà sous le labeur, à demi sommeillant, hearing my name's cadence breaks through your glow repines. Hélène is singing Ronsard's verses while the servant is sleeping. Qui, au bruit de mon nom, ne s'aille réveillant. but will start into wakefulness out of her dreams. But at the very sound of Ronsard's name, the sleeping servant wakes. His narcissism is evident. According to him, a simple mention of his name is enough for a sleeping servant to wake. Bénissons votre nom de louange, immortel, and blesses your name, immortalized by my desire. The half-asleep servant wakes and blesses. Ronsard contrasts Helen's mortal beauty with the immortality of his verses. This is one of his principal arguments in winning Helen. Ronsard, in his brilliance, intertwines love and immortality. He suggests that though his poems, even after his demise, the world will remember and immortalize both him and Helen, elevating her to timeless fame. The first two stanzas are a cruel depiction of Helen's old age, where she regrets not having reciprocated Ronsard's love. In the third stanza, when he talks of himself, there is no cruelty. Je serai sous la terre, a fantôme sans eau. I'll be underneath the ground and a boneless shade. While Helen is by the fire, old and ready to die, Ronsard predicts he will already be dead. He will not be physically present to remind or haunt her of her regretful decisions, as he will be a phantom without bones. But it will be through his verses that she will regret her rejection. Speaking of himself in the future, he prods Helen to think along the same lines of her in her future. Ronsard is clever. Even though he's a narcissist, at no point in the poem does he talk about his own physical aspect, but only of Helen's. The only time he does so, he is dead and without bones. It is a comparison between Helen's fleeting beauty and Ronsard's eternal talent, a conscious choice in his seduction strategy. Par les ombres myrtes, je prendrai mon repos, taking my long rest in the scented myrtle glade. He intentionally uses the word repos, rest, and not more, death. Myrtle is associated with Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love. Vous serez au foyer une vieille accroupie, and you'll be an old woman nodding towards life's close. Helen is described as vieille, old, in the first stanza, and a vieille accroupie, a bent old woman, thereby making Helen's reality all the more harsher. Regrettant mon amour et votre fier dédain, regretting my love and regretting your disdain. Helen, he says, will be full of regret. When writing the poem, Ronsard is relatively an older man. In his experience with fleeting time, he almost seems to be admonishing Helen for her pride and contempt. Vivez si mon croyez, n'attendez à demain. At the heart of this ode lies the essence of carpe diem. For an Epicurean, one must seize the day. And the poet urges Helen to seize the present, beautifully stating, heed me and live for now, this time won't come again. Cueillez dès aujourd'hui les roses de la vie. Come pluck now today life's so quickly fading rose. The rose, a symbol of beauty, echoes the fleeting nature of youth and allure. It is a message that resonates even today. Beauty might fade like the rose, but true love, immortalized in poetry, remains eternal. Rose here is a metaphor of the shortness of life which fades quickly. The last terce has three verbs in the imperative. Vivez, n'attendez, cueillez as a call to act to the Epicurean tradition, seize the day. With the two images of Helen's old age and the dying rose, Ronsard calls for an urgent response. The poem starts with Quand, Vous, Serez Vieille and ends with Cueillez dès aujourd'hui les roses de la vie. The future is presented first and the present last. Ronsard beautifully captures the essence of fleeting youth and the enduring power of love. He acknowledges that as time marches on, her physical allure may wane, but his love for her will remain as vibrant as ever. Well, that's my take on Quand, Vous, Serez Vieille. Laissez-moi un commentaire si Ronsard a attissé votre âme à travers ce poème. Would you try it with someone you're trying to woo? Let me know in the comments below. If you would like me to take you through some other pieces of French literature, leave a comment. If you enjoyed this video, click like. And most importantly, if you want to learn more about French literature, click subscribe. Abonnez à ma chaîne YouTube et Instagram si vous aimeriez apprendre la littérature, l'histoire ou la langue française, ou même si vous vous entraînez pour un concours. Merci, au revoir.